Rain hammered against the cockpit windows, blurring the bright city lights of Washington, D.C. into streaks of molten orange and red. The American Eagle Flight 5342, a Bombardier CRJ-700, sliced through the stormy night sky, its wings shivering against the wind gusts. Inside, the pilots' faces were tense but composed, each aware that in this kind of weather, even a small miscalculation could be catastrophic. The runway lights shimmered far below, barely visible through the relentless downpour, and the radio buzzed faintly with distant chatter from the control tower. "Approach 5342. You're cleared for final," the air traffic controller's voice crackled. There was a brief pause, then the co-pilot acknowledged, voice steady but tight. The captain's hands gripped the yoke, adjusting for turbulence, eyes darting between the instruments and the faint glimmer of lights below. Each second dragged as the storm seemed to close in around them, the city skyline obscured by sheets of rain and rolling clouds. Far above, a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter hovered, its rotors cutting through the wind. Pat 25, as the helicopter was called, had been dispatched for a routine night operation, but the storm had made visibility poor and navigation tricky. The pilot scanned the horizon, trying to maintain course while monitoring altitude, never realizing that on the very same approach path below, Flight 5342 was descending. Inside the jet, the traffic collision avoidance system suddenly beeped. A flashing red dot appeared on the display. The co-pilot froze for a fraction of a second. Traffic. 12 o'clock. Low. Very close. The system warned. The captain leaned forward, eyes narrowing at the radar, heart pounding. "I see it. Maintain altitude. Adjust heading slightly." "Roger," the co-pilot replied, voice shaking slightly, though he tried to mask it. Time seemed to slow. The helicopter pilot, unaware of the descending airliner, tilted slightly to the right to compensate for a gust. The radar warnings in the jet came too late. Below 900 feet, the system only gives a traffic advisory, not a resolution advisory. The city lights reflected off the wet river, creating a surreal, almost otherworldly glow, masking the true danger. "Tower, Flight 5342, traffic alert," the captain yelled over the radio, but the controller's voice was already saturated with other flights, and no immediate corrective instruction came. The two aircraft closed the distance at a terrifying pace. The jet's wingtips sliced through the night, the helicopter's rotors spinning desperately to gain clearance. A sickening crunch echoed across the sky. Metal screamed against metal, rotors shattering into pieces, and the jet shuddered violently, throwing the pilots against their harnesses. Sparks flew inside the cockpit, warning lights flashing furiously. For a moment, silence fell, broken only by the torrential rain and the crackling of radio static. Then came the fire, a sudden blazing eruption visible through the windows, painting the rain in shades of orange and red. Pieces of the helicopter and the jet's wing glinted like embers as they tumbled toward the dark waters of the Potomac. Below, the river reflected the chaos above. Emergency lights from the Coast Guard and nearby patrol boats began flickering across the water as first responders rushed toward the scene, unaware of the full scale of what had just happened. Eyewitnesses on the banks could only stare, horrified, as flames danced on the river's surface and thick smoke clawed its way into the stormy sky. Inside the cockpit, the co-pilot tried to regain control, but the aircraft was already doomed. Systems failed one by one, alarms shrieking, fire encroaching. The captain's face was etched with a grim understanding. There was nothing left to do. With a final glance at the instruments, he whispered, "May God help us." Impact was sudden. The jet skidded across the water, breaking apart in a shower of debris. The helicopter fragments followed, scattered by the turbulent winds. A deafening roar engulfed the area as fuel ignited, flames consuming the wreckage. The storm seemed to pause for a heartbeat, as if nature itself was acknowledging the tragedy. From the tower, the controller's voice broke through the chaos, strained and urgent. "All units, emergency! All units, crash at Potomac River. Rescue teams, move now!" His words carried the weight of helplessness, knowing there was little that could be done to save those trapped in the wreckage. Rescue boats battled the waves, cutting through debris-laden waters. Firefighters in heavy gear waded into the freezing river, trying desperately to reach any survivors. But the reality was grim. The collision had been instantaneous and catastrophic. The rain washed over the scene, blending flames and water, smoke and fog, into a surreal tableau of destruction. Back in the skies, the remaining emergency services coordinated, helicopters hovering at safe distances, sending infrared sensors scanning for heat signatures. Police and National Guard units established perimeters, guiding media away while trying to maintain order in the storm-lashed city. Families of passengers and crew, unaware of the specifics, waited anxiously for any news. Phones rang unanswered, anxiety mounting with every passing minute. Meanwhile, aviation investigators were already mobilizing, rushing to collect data from radar, flight recorders, and eyewitness accounts. Preliminary information suggested that systemic issues, crowded airspace, limited visibility, and communication delays had combined with split-second miscalculations to produce one of the deadliest accidents in recent U.S. aviation history. The night stretched on, storm giving way slowly to a pale gray dawn. The Potomac River, once a mirror of the city's lights, was now a graveyard of twisted metal and silence. The fire smoldered, leaving smoke rising into the cold morning air. Emergency crews, exhausted and grim, worked tirelessly to recover bodies and clear debris, their faces lit by the faint glow of their flashlights and the early morning sun piercing the clouds. News outlets began broadcasting the story in real time, each anchor describing the scene with disbelief. The city mourned collectively, remembering the victims not just as statistics, but as individuals whose lives had been cut short in a single, harrowing moment. Aviation experts appeared on panels, explaining the factors that contributed to the collision, emphasizing how rare yet preventable such accidents could be with stricter protocols, technology improvements, and human vigilance. Every piece of footage from security cameras, nearby buildings, and eyewitness phones painted a cinematic horror. Slow-motion captures of debris falling, flames reflecting on rain-slick surfaces, and the chaotic response of rescue teams made the tragedy feel both immediate and surreal. Social media amplified the images, with millions around the world witnessing the disaster unfold almost in real time. The investigation revealed more details over the following weeks. The airspace near Reagan National Airport was particularly complex, with strict altitude rules and overlapping flight paths. Military helicopters frequently operated in the same corridors as commercial flights, and on this night, the combination of stormy weather, radar limitations, and split-second human reactions created a perfect storm. The flight recorders provided haunting insights, cockpit conversations, moments of panic, and the final acknowledgments of impending disaster. Despite the tragedy, lessons emerged. Air traffic protocols were reviewed and revised. Emergency response times improved, and awareness of congested urban airspace risks increased. Memorials were held honoring the lives lost, and a generation of pilots and controllers reflected on the thin margin between routine flight and catastrophe. As the weeks passed, the stormy night of the Potomac collision became etched into aviation history. It served as a stark reminder of human vulnerability, the fragility of technology under extreme conditions, and the bravery of those who risked their lives to respond. For the city, it was a wound that never fully healed, but also a catalyst for change, safety, and remembrance. Even now, years later, when the rain falls over Washington, D.C., some pause and remember that night, the night when two aircraft, in perfect convergence of timing and misfortune, met in the skies above the Potomac, leaving a city and a nation grappling with the aftermath of a tragedy that was both sudden and cinematic in its scope. The fire, the water, the storm, the chaos. It all became part of the story of Flight 5342 and Pat 25, a story of lives intertwined, split apart in a single moment, and remembered forever in the memory of the city and the history of aviation.